To some sprite animators, After Effects is seen as a big step up on improving your animation and compositing skills. Some people use After Effects to make 3D floors, or some people use it just to make the map in 2D. Sometimes people just use AE to tinker with their Flash-only animations. In this video, I'm going to teach the basics of adding Flash animations into the After Effects. So before running After Effects, make sure that your animation is animated inside your canvas, and make sure your canvas size is exactly 1280 by 720. There is a way to have a bigger canvas, but I'll get into that in a later video. Remember, nothing can leave the canvas or else you done goofed and it doesn't work. Once you've got your animation, go to File, click Export, and export the movie as an SWF. Make sure to guide any layers you don't want to see in the final video. If you have sound effect in your animation, make sure to also export a copy as a .wav file. Alright, now we're finished with Flash, so you can go ahead and click and drag this onto the library. My After Effects layout is a little bit different, but I'm pretty sure the projects and libraries should be somewhere on the left side. You'll see it. Alright, now in order to get started with your whole animation thing and placement and camera moving and all that, you just gotta drag this thing all the way down to this square thingy, and then bam, right there. Then you got the canvas because you're so cool. Again, make sure your canvas is 1280 by 720 when doing this. Like, I know that's a big canvas, but you gotta do it. Or at least for now anyways. Now everything is similar to Flash, so you can either go and load a picture and have it behind your SWF, or you can go ahead and keep that background in Flash. But remember, if the background exits the canvas, it'll cut off there. So now everything's set up, and all we need is a VCam or like a camera. So you want to right click around here, go to New, and select Camera. Make sure that the camera type is a one node camera. I'll explain about 2 nodes in a different video, unless you already know. Then you click OK and you got your camera. So your camera isn't going to work just yet, because you've got one more thing to do. You've got to go to your SWF, and on this icon right here, you gotta click here so it shows the 3D cube. And that means that your layer is a 3D layer now, so that's pretty cool. So now you can click on this drop down by your camera, and you can go to transform, and there are the three most important numbers you're ever gonna use. The first number on the left moves your camera left and right. The second number in the middle moves your camera up and down. The third number on the right moves your camera in and out, like zooming in and zooming out. These are the coordinates X, Y, and Z. Just like Flash, you can also use the arrow keys to change the camera position. There's also a camera tool you can use to kind of move the camera by clicking on the preview with your mouse. The hotkey for this camera tool is C, and when you have it on this setting, you can have the left click, like rotate, like you're turning your head or something. The middle click moves your camera up and down, left and right with no Z, and then the right click zooms in and zooms out. You can keep pressing C to change the different modes it has. If you don't really like this way, there is another way to move your camera around. What you want to do is you want to go open a new layer, then go to Null, and then you want to go to this little swirly thingy right next to your camera layer, and you want to drag that onto the Null 1, or whatever your null is. Go ahead and lock your camera layer, and all you have to do now is drag around that invisible null object from your preview, and you can just move it around and it'll move the camera by itself. Make sure to make your null layer 3D as well. 3D is good for the heart. You may have noticed that your SWF seems a little bit blurry or something. This is just smoothened out, but if you want to change it back to a crisp form, kind of like a trace bitmap, all you gotta do is you just go to this icon that kind of looks like the sun god, and then you just gotta click it, and then bam, everything looks fine. Okay, so now we've done everything, and now we can finally motion tween the camera and move it around, kind of like in Flash. So you want to go to transform, then you want to click on this stopwatch. The one that's right next to position. This enables the motion tween, essentially. Like this is basically motion tweening, but in After Effects. And so these little diamond things are your keyframes. And so if you move next to the stopwatch, if you move like to the left, click on this empty hole. That means to insert the keyframe. So After Effects' motion is similar to the new motion tweens for the Flash things. The only new thing this has from classic tweens is that whenever you move the camera, it'll record and automatically insert a keyframe from where you move the camera in the timeline. So I can just be like, oh hey, here's my starting point, and then I go here, and then I move the camera up like 3 whatever, and then it'll just capture that and then puts a keyframe, and it's so cool. Once you start to get your camera moving, you'll notice that all the positions, and sometimes even if it's a straight line from point A to point B, it'll be like some improvised movement in the middle. This is extremely annoying and should die. So in order to kill it, all you have to do, right click all of your keyframes, like just highlight them all and right click, then go to keyframe interpolation. You'll find 3 settings, and the one you're aiming for is the middle one. You want to change that from auto Bezier or whatever it is to linear. Ignore the top one. The top one's chillin' always. And then there you go, that problem goes away. Now we're gonna do one last thing before I end this video. Everyone loves to ease. Easing is one of the greatest things in sus and souk. And so if you want to slow down your camera, like if you want it to like go really fast and then slow down, you could do it frame by frame. Or you could do one of two ways, the easy way or the hard way. Okay, so the easy way of doing this is to right click your keyframe and then you go to keyframe assistant. You can select easy in or easy out. And this is essentially easing 100 or easing negative 100. You know, like fast to slow or slow to fast. In After Effects, when you put easing in, everything before the keyframe is going to go from fast to slow. So the closer it gets to the keyframe, the slower the position is going to get. When you put easing out, guess what happens? Oh my god, it goes the other way. So everything that moves away from the keyframe gets faster. You should note that easing in affects the left side and easing out affects the right side. But this is no fun. This is only a preset, so you can't really adjust it to what you want. So here's the hard way. You want to once again right click your keyframe and you go to keyframe velocity, and then you see over here, let's focus on incoming velocity. Incoming velocity is essentially easing in. Make sure your speed is set to 0 and your influence is how strong you want the easing to be. So if you have 100%, it's gonna go really slow, and then if you just if you keep it at 0%, then it's barely gonna have any easing at all. The outgoing velocity is the same thing, but you know, for easy out, so only for the right side. Again, make sure your speed is set to 0. I'll explain what this does in another video. And so you can play around with this. So you can have one keyframe here. You can have one keyframe be like, oh, I'm going to have the whatever's on the left side slow down to this keyframe. And then if you go back here, you can have this keyframe go, hey, I want to have whatever's after this speed back up. And so if you have whatever's in between, it's gonna have it speed up and then slow back down, which is pretty cool. And so it's kind of like a guessing game if you want the right kind of easing. So you gotta just mess around with it and see what's good. Remember, this is for keyframes, not just for camera, so it works on everywhere. Now there's one last thing I need to teach you, and that's how to render your video. So what you want to do is you want to select the tab with your project in it, then you want to go to composition, and then click on add to render queue. Go down here to where it says lossless, and then on format, you want to change this to H.264. If you can't find this setting, then maybe try other settings, I don't know. Use Google to find a solution. Go down to audio output and you can click on this and make sure that this is high for no reason. Everything else should be good. In order to name your file, click on this little thing and then you can name it whatever you want. Now you're ready to render. This has been a somewhat speedy tutorial on how to put your videos into After Effects, and this is just the basics. If you have any questions or issues, just please comment. I do have plans to make more videos, but it might vary. Time is an issue for me. But if you enjoyed the video, I'll most likely make another one. Thanks for watching and I hope you got somewhere, because if you didn't